Hello, everyone. This is Kev, and with me is Donnie and Roger, and we're here to discuss the legacy of one Bruce Lee, the Dragon. Um, we're here to discuss whether was he the real deal or was he just an entertainer. So, my name is Kev. This is the Black Dimension, and with me, go ahead and introduce yourselves, fellas. Donnie first.
Hey y'all, this is Danny. I'm here. I'm currently about to eat some chicken wings, but I'm here. I'm here to call some calves.
Hello,
Okay.
folks.
All right.
This is Roger. I am the last unconfirmed dragon. The unconfirmed last dragon. Whichever way you want to put it. I don't know what the last dragon means,
Are
but
you saying that you Ty Mox's illegitimate son?
well, I don't know. There might be some real dragons out there. So if there's some real dragons out there, no offense. But if there's not any real dragons out there, then I'm the last unconfirmed dragon.
All right. You know what though? When we confirm it, we'll have a broadcast about it on the Black Dimension. Roger, still confirmed Last Dragon. So anyway, this might not be the conversation that you think it is because usually when you hear conversations about Bruce Lee, you hear Bruce Lee being showered with constant praise for his talents and his abilities, and the fact that everyone feels like that he was just an unstoppable fighter. And from the presentation we had growing up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. In the 2000s, because we do have kids that are old enough to have someone like Bruce Lee resonate through his many incarnations and representations and inspirations throughout the entirety of media, such as video games and other, and also the inspiration for other martial artists as well. But there's a few problems with going along with this legacy. Number one, I have to bring up a fact, and I'm bringing up this fact as a fan of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee doesn't have an actual fight record, which to me kind of questions his legitimacy. But Donnie, what I want y'all to know about Donnie is that Donnie himself is a trained fighter. And I want you to hear his take on all of this. And it's a very interesting one. And hey, you know what? This is the kind of discussion it's going to be. So, Donnie, take it away.
Oh man, I mean it's a lot to start.
Is it? Is it
But
really?
you have to give me
Can
a
I
minute.
say something real quick?
Yeah, go
Can I
ahead,
say
Roger.
something real quick? Donnie wasn't no Bruce Lee. I said Donnie wasn't no Bruce
Sorry.
Lee. Go ahead, I'm just messing around.
Donnie.
Donnie, go ahead.
Hold on.
I was just messing around. Go
No,
ahead, brother.
I mean,
Oh, I might have scared him. You know,
no, you
trying to
didn't.
now he might be trying to confirm if I'm the last dragon or not.
Well, take it away.
Oh, y'all
Let your
crack it up.
Donnie.
Nah, listen, I was in the bodega. They were talking loud. Listen, y'all got all right. So we're gonna go from the aspect of Bruce Lee in terms of martial arts ability. What angle do y'all want to really take it at from the jump?
No. What I was saying was that you're a trained fighter, and there's some differences in, there's some differences in the way you see things as opposed to the way I would say a superficial fan sees things.
Yeah,
Because Bruce Lee he
in
was an
terms of
absolute
martial
man
arts,
in my opinion.
when you look at Bruce Lee, everybody does give him that title of he's the man. He could beat up everybody. If you put him in the UFC, he'd be whooping ass, taking names. No, hell no, hell no. Uh, he was a crafty dude. He was a philosophical dude. He was probably a guy who spent a lot of time training his style of martial arts, which is Wing Chun. But in terms of actual fight ability, if he got in the ring in the cage today, he'd get his ass whipped.
Hmm. and you also argue that it's also due to his physical limitations as well. You know, like like for instance his size. You say basically he's too small to hang in a fight with a real gorilla tough killer.
So if Bruce Lee, and I'm not even gonna put myself out there, if Bruce Lee get into it in the streets with a dude who is 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds, Bruce Lee is a 5'7" or 5'8" Asian man who's 140 pounds. That's not gonna work out. It's just not. Maybe he'll catch the dude with a technique that the dude's not ready and waiting for. But once the dude grab him, it's pretty much a wrap for Bruce Lee ass. Like, look, we're just gonna call a spade a spade. He's 140 pounds, 5'8". He ain't doing too much damage.
So what you're saying is, if anything, of all the things that he had done on film and on television, all of the great flashy moves, the fighting abilities that have dominated so many other actor history, that none of that would really count in a real situation.
No. So, what was the movie? The last movie he did where he fought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, funny you should say that. I have a visual. It was called Game of Death.
Game of Death.
Not the
Game
game
of
of
Death.
life, game of death. Respect.
He rode up on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem was handling him, tearing his ass. Bah, 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 bah. Kareem was beating him up until he figured out Kareem's weakness was he couldn't do well in the light. The light messed him up. First off, whether he cut the lights on, the lights off, he poked all the holes and had him out in the middle of the day, Kareem would have still whooped his behind. It's just at that point it's physics.
Yeah, but I mean, I had older brothers, and we watched kung fu movies, and you know when him and like them and his friend their friends would talk, they would talk about how Kareem was giving Bruce Lee a hard time, and that you know with quote fingers almost beat Bruce Lee.
I mean, in reality, that's what would have happened. This is, Bruce was an interesting dude, but a lot of his techniques were more flash in the pan. Like he was famous for the 1-inch punch. While I believe you could throw a heck of a punch or a hell of a punch from a short distance, you just not that. I mean, it's just not really applicable in most fights. It takes years and years, decades to hone that kind of ability. Bruce Lee really, that's just not. To me, it's amazing. Like, so in the video that he made it famous, he was at a martial arts. I think it was a competition where he invited the dude to come out and stand in front of him. He threw the 1-inch punch. They set a chair behind him. He extended his fingers out, and he slammed the fingers into a punch. Dude fell back, hit the chair, slid. Simple physics behind that wasn't so much the punch; it was him pushing, because that's what he was doing. He pushed off of his legs, his back leg, and jammed it into the dude and pushed the dude back. So, in terms of a strike, that's not going to do a lot of damage. In terms of a push, I mean, it's a push.
So it wasn't some incredible force of nature whenever he punched you from 1 inch.
Yeah, no.
No, like okay, all right, Donnie. Let me get Roger in here for a second. Now, Roger, what do you think of everything that you have been hearing Donnie, you know, saying as far as the man, the myth, the legend, Bruce Lee,
Bruce Lee was the man, the myth, and the legend. He was all
the
that
dragon,
wrapped in
the
one.
dragon?
I'm
That's what they
saying,
call
like
him.
Bruce. I'm saying Bruce Lee was well respected by other people who do that. Like it wasn't like he just got the respect of us fans. When you think about Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, you know, people that's into all that. They respected the heck out of Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
Now,
and you know what? Who else? Bruce Leroy, the Last Dragon. His
I'm
character
saying,
was an inspiration of Bruce Lee. You know,
I'm
I mean, they had
saying,
Bruce Lee footage in the movie. You know,
I'm saying,
he had that glow.
like Bruce Lee was the only man that really had the glow. On some real life stuff, like Bruce Lee had the glow just about. I'm pretty sure if we seen him face to face, you see his aura, like he was described about Prince.
Yeah, his aura
I'm
was a
pretty sure we
sweaty
can
little
see his
dude
aura.
running his mouth. Like what?
Man, look, okay, look, this is what I'm saying here. Okay, Bruce Lee was doing his thing, right? He was making these movies. Yeah, movies gonna put a little pizzazz on something here and there. I get it. A little razzmatazz. But even through all that, the man was respected by the other people in the craft. Plus, didn't he have a school here in America? And when he set up his school, the the Chinese came over to holler at him. Like, come on, Bruce, you got to holler at me. You can't just come out here
So
teaching what we and he had to fight over that, right?
the big thing with Bruce Lee was when he came to the States, they weren't teaching kung fu, Chinese martial arts to white people, other people, foreigners. They were teaching it to other Asians, but it wasn't something that they wanted to get out into the mainstream and be taught to non-Asians. So he caught a lot of flack for that. So the whole big thing is where he got his back broken allegedly was they was coming to him like, listen, dude, we shutting your school down. You over here teaching white people, black people. You got a whole multicultural thing over here. You got to shut that down. The legend, accordingly, is he was beating up other dudes. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't a martial artist that couldn't fight somebody his own size or another kung fu expert, because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think much of kung fu, with the exception of Wing Chun and really just Wing Chun. That's the only one I respect, to be honest with you. Everything else takes decades. So like when you see those monks and they be doing all the tricks where they breaking stuff and they doing, yeah, them dudes are building their bodies up. You see them dudes, they sitting in horse stance for 10 hours. Yeah, he gonna have strong legs because he doing a squat for 10 hours. Can you do a squat for an hour? Can you do a squat for 10 minutes? I couldn't.
I mean, but wasn't Bruce Lee using Wing Chun?
So his original style was Wing Chun. And then he updated, which, like I said, it's a pretty bad style. So he had an advantage over other people because Wing Chun had a basis. They tell you that it was created by a woman who wanted to beat a man, and she came up with this extravagant style, but really it's got its roots in boxing. English boxing. English boxers came over there and was whooping them Chinese dudes behind. So they adapted it and made it into Wing Chun. So if you look at Wing Chun, they throwing fists, but they all arm punches, and they develop a lot of power from doing it consistently. So that's why I'm not gonna totally discount it. But when you start getting into the crane technique and the claw technique and all this, all that shit take decades to master.
Well, okay. So let me ask you a question real quick. Ip Man, the legendary Ip Man, the
Real
legendary.
deal.
Say what?
Real deal.
Real deal.
But if he got in the ring
I
with a
agree.
boxer, he'd be handled.
You said if he got in the ring
Not
with a
according to the movie.
According to the movie, he was getting beat down, and then he started cheating. Boxer's like, wait a minute now, you don't put me to the ground. Hold on now, let me get up. He's supposed to stand up and fight. In the movie, he was getting handled.
Well, it wasn't just any boxer in the movie; it was the champ. Was it?
The random champ.
That man say he has no respect for kung fu. But
it's not that.
Let me bring up. Go ahead.
It's not that I don't have I don't have any respect for it. I just feel like it's a martial art form that takes decades to master, and in a world where we have boxing, kickboxing, karate, even All of these martial arts are going to topple them. Matter of fact, they did when the Japanese, you saw Ip Man 3, when they came over, or was it 2? When the Japanese came over, they was handling all the Kung Fu masters.
True.
And that's real life.
I mean, but
No,
Bruce.
wait a minute. Wasn't that the first one? Wasn't that the first one though? Or it? Oh wait, no. What was the second? No, it was the second one.
No way. We got the 4th one out now, and then they did the Grandmaster, which is another version of it, which I don't know what they was doing with that. But yeah, it's a lot of the Chinese dudes got beat down by the karate dudes, and they did a competition, I think in the 70s, where they sent 10 kung fu artists over to I want to say Japan. It was either Japan or Korea, and they fought 10 karate artists, and the karate artists handled them. And then if you go to another section of fight history, they did, I want to say 20 karate artists to fight the Thais in Thailand, and the Thais beat their ass. I think out of the fights, it was probably maybe 3 karate masters who won. But the Thais overall won because it's just a destructive art, using elbows, knees.
Oh yeah, Muay Thai. Oh my God. So okay. Let's get to kind of a famous guy versus famous guy. Bruce Lee versus Tony Jaa. You think Tony Jaa
is killing him? Tony Jaa is killing him. Now, have you seen Ong Bak 2? Was it 2? Yeah, it was 2. At the end of 2, he whooped everybody.
Yeah, Tony Jaa looked like Tony Jaa looked like he could like it looked authentic. Like if he was doing all his own stunts like that, and Tony Jaa is something serious.
Okay. Isn't it kind of a stunt to have someone beat Bruce Lee in the first place? That's a stunt in itself. He was a bad man.
He was a bad man. Dude. The dude the dude perfected his style of martial arts, and he's really been the only one to use it ever since. Even if you look at his disciples, right? Do you see any Jeet Kune Do practitioners in MMA?
No, I mean, Bruce Lee was so cold that nobody could really truly emulate what he did. He didn't have time to teach them because his life got cut short. They just couldn't handle it. He was that good. How about that?
Nah, bro. It was the whole thing with Jeet Kune Do is basically making your own style. And I saw China did. It was probably a 30-episode series where they really outlined his whole life, and they exaggerated on some things, but it's not really the important part. Jeet Kune Do, from what my understanding of it is he was making everything that he had learned up until that point into his martial arts. So Bruce Lee started out as a dancer, so he put that cha-cha footwork into his boxing. He put the boxing into the Wing Chun, and then he put the Wing Chun with Taekwondo. That's where he had that big super kick, where he threw that kick out and people would fly back in the movies. That was Taekwondo. He learned that from Superfoot Wallace.
Superfoot Wallace.
So
everybody take notes. If you got a pen and pad out there, you might want to take notes when you watch one of these broadcasts.
So he talks on a lot of his own things, but they do a lot of things like they credit him as being the father of mixed martial arts. He was not that. Mixed martial arts had been around well before Bruce Lee had even been born.
So you mean to tell me
nobody did it?
You mean to tell me when the UFC video game had Bruce Lee as a special edition character, it was just a marketing ploy?
They had Mike Tyson in that motherfucker. We all know Mike Tyson wouldn't stand a chance in the ring. Now, if he hit you, you going down like Kimbo. He hit you like Kimbo. Kimbo was cracking people. But when Kimbo got in the ring, what happened? They took him down. They choked him. They was playing with him. They put him in the ride. They did all kind of stuff to him.
Yeah, they smothered the face with it. Like they just with his stomach and just. Like it was awful.
Oh, that was I can't think of his name, but he was a gatekeeper in the UFC for a long time after that. He put Kimbo
So you talking
in
about Big Country, right? Was it Big
Big
Country?
Country. It was Big Country. Big Country put Kimbo in a crucifix. That's where basically both of your arms are laid out. You're pinned. You can't get up. And he tapped him on the head. Pop, 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 pop. Kimbo looked bad, but Kimbo was a very 1D fighter. He hit you with a hook. You was going down. You were going down. That was a big man. He hit you with a hook. He was going down. So everybody knew. Don't let that man hit you.
Kimbo did good against non-trained fighters. Let's put it like that. I remember when he came out with that YouTube thing where he was going around beating folks up and knocked some dude out his socket. Because the dude
Yeah,
allowed himself to get hit like that, no slice.
backyard
But
boxing. That's not a dude I
but
would get in the ring with. He fought, but there was an event where he fought Sean Gannon. Sean Gannon was
yeah, I remember that.
okay. Sean Gannon put him in a chokehold. Kimbo didn't know what to do. He put him in a
Oh, he
standing
did.
standing guillotine. Yep. And they was like, no, you can't
Yeah,
do
it was
that.
a standing guillotine. The whole point was to get Kimbo gassed as soon as possible, so he couldn't use his power. And Kimbo was using his power. That dude was going around. His face looked like Frankenstein, but that dude wouldn't go down for anything. Nothing.
That's one of the things you notice when you fight. So Kimbo was a big muscle bound dude. You saw the size of his chest, his back. That was a huge dude, right? A lot of those fighters, I've seen them come into the gym time and time again. It's dudes who lift a lot of weight. The problem with being a big muscle bound dude is all of those muscles take oxygen. It's hard to train oxygen to fight for 25 minutes in a fight, and you just swinging big ass monstrous hit. You can only throw so many of those. So typically with those fighters, what I would do is I let you throw them. I'd try to get out the way. If you caught me, hey, I'm gonna have to deal with that. But after about 5-10 of those shots, you ain't got nothing left, and I got a whole round to tear you up.
So we just gonna say if Kimbo, for instance, got into the ring with Bruce Lee, that Bruce can't do nothing. That's what we trying to imply here.
No, here's what I would say. If
the man was quick, I'm just saying. Let's put some emphasis on the speed.
Bruce Lee was a smart dude. So Bruce Lee would have to have a game plan to stay away from Kimbo for as long as he could. If Kimbo connected once, it's a wrap. 140-pound frame can only take so much. I don't care how big he puffed himself up to be. He got hit in the ribs. Ribs is being broken.
So now Bruce Lee can't take a hit. That's what you're trying to say.
I don't think Bruce
Lee can take a hit now.
Listen, I'm 230. If I took a hit from Kimbo, I couldn't take the hit. I don't know about 140-pound man. And I done been kicked by dudes 290 pounds and took it. Okay, I'm not quite sure I can take a Kimbo hit.
Yeah, but let me ask you this then, since we're talking about actors and performers and stuff. Would you say Jet Li was also a actor performer?
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't know much about Jet Li aside from his movies. I think Jackie Chan trained at the Peking Opera. He was a dude who had some moves, but in terms of a legitimate fight, what was the movie where they had the collar on him and they brought that dude and he was in the ring?
Unleashed.
Was it Unleashed?
Yeah. It was Unleashed.
No. Maybe it was a different one where he got in the ring with Tito Ortiz. It was somebody set him up. Tom Arnold set him up, and this was he put him in the ring with Tito Ortiz and a whole bunch of cage fighters. He was just breaking them down, breaking arms. None of that would happen.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's not Unleashed. Is it Unleashed? It might have been.
No,
but you said he had the collar on.
I think that was the movie with Aaliyah in DMX.
Oh, you talking about Rome? It ain't Romeo Must Die, is it?
Romeo Must Die, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Romeo Must Die. He got in the ring and he kicked Tito Ortiz or he punched him and broke his arm. And I was like, nah, bro.
Or was it Cradle to the Grave?
I'm pretty sure it was Romeo Must Die, but hey.
No, Romeo Must Die had Isaiah Washington. I don't think Romeo Must Die had DMX in it. Yeah, I think it was Cradle to the Grave.
Yeah, that was with Tom Arnold in there. Tom Arnold set him up. He said, "Yeah, no, he's good. I'm gonna put my money on him." But in terms of skill, no.
Yeah.
If you look at Bruce Lee in his videos, there's a video of him hitting the heavy bag. You happen to have YouTube up?
Yeah, I got YouTube up. You want
Type in YouTube, Bruce Lee hits heavy bag.
Okay.
Bad probably can't take it. We talking about
Bruce Lee
the
heavy.
legend, the
Bruce
myth,
Lee heavy bag.
the man. Bruce better than Donnie Lee.
So, so if you look at this video, I've heard, quote unquote, that this heavy bag is supposed. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That was the perfect video. They said that heavy bag is 300 pounds. That heavy bag is probably 300.
You said the heavy bag is 200 pounds.
Yeah, how much?
They claim that heavy bag is like 300, 200 pounds, and he's hitting that heavy bag. You see it moving. Nah, that heavy bag's probably about 50 pounds.
Man, he could have been that powerful. Like you hating on this legend.
Now, he just threw that super kick that was from Superfoot Wallace. Now, look at the difference between Mike Tyson and Bruce. If you look at the difference between Mike Tyson was tight with his center line. He guarded his face. Now, this is more boxing. This is more of a style issue. But the bag Mike Tyson is hitting is heavier than the bag Bruce Lee is hitting. And look at the difference in the wobble. It's not moving like that, right? So that off top tells you Bruce Lee wasn't just no super strong, powerful dude. Because Mike Tyson, we all know, hits harder than Bruce Lee in terms of punching ability.
I mean, he's a trained fighter, man. He's been training all his life, right?
Ain't Bruce supposed to be training all his life?
Let me put something in here, Roger. They said except for a few street fights where he used to get in trouble with police, they say that he really isn't on record from being a real deal fighter. Okay, now I pulled this article up. It was talking about the fight with Wong, the time Bruce Lee was challenged to a real fight, and it was it sounded like it was as Donnie described. Let me see. Let me go to the part where he actually gets in the fight. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. This paragraph right here. Let me see if I can highlight it. Just for the viewing audience. Okay. It said the best known was Lee's 1-inch punch, a strike with no windup that was delivered from an incredibly short distance. While appearing at the Sun Sings Theater in San Francisco that October, Lee invited a spectator to come and hold a pad. It was expected the man would be knocked backwards, just as Lee had done dozens of times before. Lee threw his punch, but the man was unmoved. Frustrated, Lee committed to a second, which sent the volunteer flying and complaining he wasn't prepared for another strike.
So that tells you off top, if the 1-inch punch that he actually threw was the punch that he claimed it to be, where it's just it comes with so much force and the windup is from the two knuckles thrusting upward and the impact hits and it's so strong, he'd have folded that man, right? But instead, he was trying to push him. So you can probably pull up the original video where he was doing it. He pushes him. The dude is pushed. That's where you fall back. But a good strong punch, especially to the solar plexus or to the gut, you're bending forward. Think about it. Anytime you've been hit in the stomach and it hurt, do you buckle back 15 feet or do you bend over? You might step back like an inch or two, like, oh shit, that hurt. But you don't fly backwards.
I mean, there is a little bit of movie magic with certain things that go on,
This
but
was real life.
well, I mean, but yeah, but when you compare what he can make somebody, how he can make somebody move in real life, that just to me it lends more to that he was a legend. You know, he was a
I need
small
you to break
guy.
that one down, sir. I need you to break that down, sir.
Hey, bro, hey, bro. This man, this. I mean, if the man really couldn't get down, you know, I'm just having a hard time how he could have such a reputation with the other people that mean something. How could Jackie Chan admire him so much and he spent time with him? I heard Jackie Chan tell a story about when he was first making movies and Bruce Lee went bowling with him. Like, how could he be so admired amongst people that's involved in that culture
Because
or
he's a celebrity.
involved in martial arts?
So let me tell you what Bruce Lee did do. Bruce Lee did revolutionize the way kung fu, martial arts, movies, and film was done. He knew angles. He knew how to make things flashy with the camera. Um, I I don't necessarily believe the whole thing where he had to slow his punches down because it was too fast to be in frame and all that, but they couldn't capture it.
I mean, with the cameras back then, though,
It's possible. Okay, maybe with the cameras back then.
All right, guys.
yeah, I can believe the technology
All
wasn't where it needed to be.
right, guys. I want to show y'all this video right here. I'm sure you've seen it before. This one right here is for the
Yep.
audience. It's got nunchuck ping pong. This is Bruce Lee out.
hmm
Yeah, that's Photoshop. That's not real.
That's Photoshop.
Yeah, that's our
You mean to tell me that?
whatever. That's movie magic. That's not real. That's cool. I thought it was real for a long time, but yeah, that's not real. You can probably Snopes that if you look up on Snopes, Bruce Lee ping pong. Yeah, that. I mean, that's a bad man. That's a bad man to be able to do that. He probably could have hit a couple of them, but to do it to this ability, nah, player.
Man, how old is this video?
Yeah, this video. I mean,
That's
it
what I'm
has to be
saying.
like.
Could we even Photoshop it like that back then? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You could Photoshop it in the last 20 years. And let me take it a step further. If you look at him, he's doing the movements from Game of Death.
yeah.
Look at his suit. Look at his outfit. He track suited up. He killed Bill in the game.
Man, where the bus at? I'm finna throw Donnie under it. Ain't gonna
Listen,
be sitting here talking about my man like this.
I hate to do it. Now, from my understanding, he did revolutionize some other things like supplements. He understood that certain foods made your body grow in certain ways. He did pioneer the whole electrolysis thing where you can stimulate your muscles, which I don't know if he did that on his own or somebody helped him. I don't quite know. But in terms of him being the most badass fighter, nah, I can't say.
So you mean to tell me that Liu Kang drew inspiration from a possible fraud? That what you're telling us?
That's what it sounds like he's saying. Don't it sound like he's somewhat saying that?
Well, yeah. I mean, what else? Okay, so there's the movie where he fought Chuck Norris, right? All this is coming
Yeah,
to me as I'm thinking about.
that was Return of the Dragon.
Right. And
Okay,
Chuck Norris is
Yeah,
bad.
the one that was talking about some Chinese spare ribs.
so Chuck Norris at the end of the movie dies by Bruce Lee's hand. What does he do? He snaps his neck, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that scene, you would have to be one of the strongest men alive. He got him with one arm and a guillotine and did a little jerk motion, snapped his neck. Not physical, not physically possible.
Mm.
And my thing with that is if you are a trained martial artist who's supposed to be the father of MMA, you would know, hey, let's put the right technique in here. Let's do it like that. But then again, movie magic.
Yeah, okay. So, but his death though, how did they say Bruce Lee died?
Dude, like
Yeah,
the part.
because I heard a couple different rumors, but I kind of believe the one about him being poisoned probably is what got him.
Poison.
You know, hey, I heard he was poisoned, which makes sense to me. You poison a
Um,
man, so he can't really defend himself when you come at him.
well, they say he had an aneurysm, and that's when he died. Um, I've heard different things. I've heard the aneurysm got him, and it was his time when it was his time. I've heard that Bruce liked to party, and he was popping pills, and it was an overdose, and they played it off like it was an aneurysm.
Oh, okay, so basically you're saying that they was protecting his legacy as one of the greatest fighters that the world has ever seen.
I mean, it would make sense. It would make sense. But
Yeah, especially
it could have been. I don't want to go that far. I just say there's a lot of conjecture out there in the streets.
I'm gonna apologize for the entire Asian population out there that eventually will hear this hear this broadcast. As a disclaimer, I want to just say that Donnie's on his own. He's crazy sometime, and Bruce Lee was every bit of the man, the myth, and the legend, which is why he had so much influence even after his death. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, so let's go
The
ahead,
films
Donnie.
he did was the greatest. I'm not going to take away. His films was phenomenal. The films he did were great. The TV shows he did were great. He created Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, and they beat him out of that and put the white dude in there who everybody thinks is Asian for some reason, who killed himself in Thailand.
Oh, you talking about, yeah, David Carradine? That never made any sense to me.
Right. So I think really what it was is they was just trying to beat him out of the money with that, because you know how Hollywood is now. Hollywood was like that times 12 back then. So I think they just beat him out of it because they knew they would have to put him in a starring role and have him with they women and doing all this stuff. That's a lot to it, but I think that they just really just beat him out of that to steal it later on down the line. But if you look at him when he was Kato in the Green Hornet, you had never seen nothing like that on TV before.
Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, when you
Absolutely not.
yeah when you're a pioneer, yeah, of course you're gonna resonate. Like, being one of the first ones to ever do it, or the first one to ever do it. Yeah, they're gonna be like, who is this badass mofo here? Yeah.
Real talk.
But let me ask y'all a question though. But see, Roger was kept going back to how respected Bruce Lee was in the Asian world, in the Kung Fu world. Why didn't Bruce Lee do all those collabs like that with like the other? Because Kung Fu was a massive genre. Like, why would you think that he wouldn't have done any collabs with any of the other famous Kung Fu stars? Like,
Well, I mean,
with Jackie
wait a minute.
Chan around. Go ahead.
Can we throw out the theory that it could have been something where, due to contract purposes, and they didn't want him getting hurt and things like that? Because you mess around, get into a tournament, you hurt somebody real bad, or you somehow get hurt yourself real bad. And I'm saying somehow, because I didn't see him as somebody's gonna whoop on him like that. But if he would have somehow gotten hurt, he might be out to 6 to 8 weeks, which it could throw everything off when it comes to movie making, scheduling, and things like that, because we didn't have the technology that we have now. So we had to consider things like that. I'm just saying. This is my theory.
Well, here's the problem with that. Bruce Lee had his back broke, so he wasn't dodging fights. He wasn't in the streets just saying, no, I'm a pacifist. I'm not doing that. No, he was actively seeking. I'm not quite sure why he didn't do it, but he did it with a lot of Americans like Jim Kelly. I'm trying to think of the villain from Kickboxer. I can't think of his name. Not Kickboxer. The David Duke movie, with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where they do the tournament.
To a blood sport.
Bloodsport, yeah. So Bloodsport, the villain from Bloodsport was in there. I can't think of his name. Um, but he was respected in that community at the time.
I mean, you talking about the big dude, right?
Yeah.
I think you talking about Bolo. Bolo Young.
Bolo. Bolo.
Yeah,
You are
he was the
next.
guy that yeah, he was the guy that was in Enter the Dragon. Like he was kind of the Goro, and
Hmm.
Mr. Hand was he was Shang Tsung. In fact, Mortal Kombat was inspired by Enter the Dragon.
The movie, yeah.
With Bruce, yeah, with Bruce Lee being the top, being the inspiration for Liu Kang, John Saxon the inspiration for Johnny Cage, Jim Kelly. They didn't really have a Jim Kelly archetype in there, but I think they would have probably supplemented Jax for him. Um, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's a lot of elements from Mortal Kombat that were taken straight from Enter the Dragon. Like Shang Tsung, he can morph into anybody. Mr. Hand had interchangeable hands. Yeah. So yeah. So Bruce Lee definitely had a cultural impact that could not be denied. It's just that is he legitimately someone that could just beat any fighter you could put him up against in the history of everything. Um, and somebody, Donnie begs to differ. He thinks that Tony Jaa, and I kind of might be able to agree with that. That Tony Jaa will wipe the floor with Bruce Lee.
Let's hold down. Let's just hold back on a little disrespect. I'm just saying.
Nah, Tony Jaa was a powerful, or he's not was, he is a powerful actor. They really didn't give him the respect that he was due. That dude, he did several different forms of martial arts alone. But not only that, every scene he does, he's really doing it. That dude was like Jackie Chan. You got to give Jackie Chan the respect.
I'm not trying to take away nothing from Tony Jaa. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to do that. I'm just saying let's not take away from Bruce Lee either. That's all I'm truly saying because I'm pretty sure if we had the ability to get Tony Jaa in an interview, that he would speak highly of Bruce Lee and what skill he had.
I'm sure he would. But once they got in the ring, he was
as a public figure, as a professional. But you got to also think about this: the man is dead. Like really, honestly, anybody coming out trying to say that, oh man, I will beat Bruce Lee. Like you can't really prove it because he's dead. So I mean, but it's just that
as
you just have
as
to
a child
at this
growing up,
point you have.
now I was gonna say as a child growing up, I was getting told stories about Bruce Lee and why he should be respected and and this when I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like the people I respect was telling me, boy, I do you like Bruce Lee, blah, blah, blah. Such and such Bruce Lee. They was referencing Bruce Lee. When I was hearing about Bruce Lee from my teachers when I was in school, like he might have been like a Kobe of his time. Unfortunate passing of Kobe. But Bruce was probably more of a worldwide character back in that time, and I'm pretty sure he achieved that because the dude was just plain awesome. You know, you got to protect your stars though, so you don't want your stars doing tournaments and all that. To me, it makes sense. You don't
Yeah,
want the man you making
Bruce
all
Lee
this
was
money
highly.
off of getting hurt in the ring.
Yeah, Bruce Lee was very highly marketable. I mean, when it's like it's a marketable thing versus who really deserves the respect. Could you think? Do you think that Bruce Lee was kind of the, I would say, Hulk Hogan of the kung fu world?
Nah,
yeah,
nah, 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 not the
yes,
nah, not the way you
yes,
did Hulk Hogan. No.
yes. Hulk Hogan was unstoppable, right? Bad man. They put him in Rocky. Remember when he was Thunder and Rocky, spinning Rocky around?
Yeah, Thunder Lips.
Yeah, he was a bad man. Oh, he was Thunder Lips. Okay, yeah. Yeah, he was a bad man. But if it translated to a legitimate street fight, yeah, he's a big, strong man. But I mean, somebody's gonna tune him up. If he got in the ring with one of these MMA fighters or a boxer, it's a wrap for him.
Mm. He's, well, Roger was like, no, no, not the way you.
Think about it like this:
nah.
Conor McGregor was fighting at 155, and Bruce Lee was about 140. So let's say Bruce Lee was 155 or Conor McGregor was 140. I think Conor McGregor fought at 145 at one point. Do you think Conor McGregor would lose to Bruce Lee or win?
Exactly. Yeah, he beat him.
What do you mean?
No,
So
he
Conor
beat
McGregor,
Conor McGregor. There's no, even if he was 140 and Conor McGregor was the whole 155, I think he was good enough to take him out. He was fast enough to take him down. He was quick enough, agile enough.
Conor McGregor has hella punching power.
so
He
for those
does.
listening, Roger said that Roger didn't even believe it himself.
Boy, y'all is disgusting around here. Bruce is an icon. Y'all gonna respect this man now.
Like I respect him. Like yeah, like some of my favorite kung fu films are Bruce Lee films, but I know how to like show respect to the other guys who worked hard to do kung fu films as well. You know, and my thing had already been like, why doesn't he do collabs or did any kind of versus films or because basically what I'm saying is Bruce Lee might be the Americanized version, you know, the one that they decided to push.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. I think the dude was very marketable, but you can't just put him in the realm of actual fighters. You can like I don't Manny Pacquiao, great, perfect matchup, right? Probably the same height. Bruce Lee versus Manny Pacquiao.
In a boxing match. Uh, said Bruce Lee versus Manny Pacquiao. So are we using kicks? Or are we doing like Ip Man 2? You can't use no kicks, man.
Remember Bruce Lee was a quote unquote champion boxer.
Champion boxer, but when he has no fighting record.
Yeah, I think
See,
he
I,
didn't just
I
fight
thought
his
he
high
ain't
school.
did.
Because I heard the Chuck Norris story too. Like we was talking about the Chuck Norris story about how he fought Chuck Norris at the Olympics. Like you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Never happened.
and Donnie says it never happened. And I've looked and I can't find anything on it.
That's a long time ago for they was putting everything online. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that was a long time ago.
Sorry, no. You can go back. So if it's Olympics, you can go back, and if you can't see the match, that's cool. But you would at least see the record, right? Not to mention what event were they fighting in?
Like I'm looking
God,
it up right now. Bruce Lee
was
versus
it
Chuck
Taekwondo?
Norris.
Because Taekwondo in the Olympics is point fight, so it's a tap. All right, you lost. Step back. We reset.
But you got to be able to get the tap in, even still. You know, and trained fighters fighting other trained fighters, there is a degree of difficulty there. You got to respect this degree of difficulty here.
Yeah, anytime you're with a trained fighter, that's different. Like I fought kung fu dudes, and even though I don't really respect kung fu, it throws you for a loop because they're doing weird, awkward, strange movements. So my whole thing is I'm trying to figure out what you do. You might get a shot off on me, but the moment I get that shot, I'm responding and I'm tearing your ass up, and I'm gonna circle. I'm gonna keep hitting you, and kung fu don't have much of a response to that. They do have some off the wall, depending on the style, some off the wall kicks responses, but as a whole, nah.
The only thing I see on Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, like Chuck Norris he's on record have commenting, I taught Bruce Lee how to kick. He said, according to the
Taekwondo.
martial arts icon Chuck Norris, he had an influential role in teaching the legendary Bruce Lee how to kick at a crucial stage in his career.
So
Norris
Bruce
first led.
Lee,
Oh, go ahead.
when Bruce Lee got to the States, it was allegedly because he was getting in trouble in Hong Kong. When he got here, he did Wing Chun, boxing, and Wing Chun does have some kicks in it, depending on the style and the master. But Taekwondo at the time was considered the pinnacle of kicking, right? So if you look at it, he came in, he got a couple masters himself. Dan Inosanto, this Chuck Norris teaching him how to kick things is new for me. I know he was messing with Superfoot Wallace and a couple other Taekwondo dudes. He learned some other skills and he combined that into Taekwondo because he felt like, you know what, these skills are useful. Let's not throw them out. Let's take what I like and add this and make a new swarm. And that's when he created the whole Jeet Kune Do. And allegedly, there was a whole issue between him and his master, Yip Man, who felt at the time like, listen, Wing Chun is perfect. What else do you need? And so there was a whole thing there. But this man created his own style.
Okay, hey Roger,
Yes, sir.
take a look at the screen.
I'm looking at it.
Supposed to be an interview with Chuck Norris. This was published back in July 25th, 2018. So the headline for years: Bruce Lee never competed or fought professionally. So
I mean, but again, he was changing how films were viewed in the world. I'm pretty sure it was part of his contract to stay out of these tournaments because he changed the worldview of martial arts. Yeah, we got to think about it. We got to think about how things were pre Bruce Lee.
Roger, you fighting so hard, bro. You fighting so hard.
Fighting as hard as Bruce Lee.
So he never got into any competitions, but he's considered one of the greatest fighters of all time.
No. I think he probably achieved a lot of greatness in competition, probably before he became a movie star. And probably back over because he's originally from China himself, right?
Yeah, I think Hong Kong.
So when he was probably over there in Hong Kong, he probably did all that, and then that's what made him be able to come over here and have the draw that he did. He had already been there and done that. He just didn't do it over here. It's probably was more likely.
So let's.
I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Let me ask y'all a question. Because it seemed like most of these, so a lot of the kung fu people, like they're just that they were actors. They were guys who could mix moves. So basically, that's what you're saying, Donnie. That most of the people they did that. I'm talking about like not just Bruce Lee. I'm talking about most of the kung fu actors. I'm talking
any of these action movie heroes where any of these action movie heroes where they're doing martial arts. For the most part, a lot of them are not real fighters, right? We have certain ones like Don the Dragon Wilson. He was a accomplished kickboxer. Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks. Who remembers that movie TC 2000? Nobody. I mean, but Billy. I mean,
I think even Jean-Claude had did a couple. He wasn't no serious like monster killer, but I think Jean-Claude had done a couple of Taekwondo competitions. I don't know if anybody remembers. A few years back, maybe we were probably at the 10-year mark now. Jean-Claude had picked the fight with Thailand's #1 Thai boxer, and he went on this big tour. And I'm training. I'm learning to do the kick again and doing all these martial arts, and I'm training. Meanwhile, he was filming a movie and hanging out with drunken Russians. And then I think at the end of the season, he ended up bowing out of that fight.
See, studios put a lot of money into actors. They want things to go well for them. They're not trying to put them out there at risk. I'm gonna see. Is there any way for us to look up like what was going on in Hong Kong before he got over here?
So his big claim to fame wasn't in Hong Kong. His big claim to fame was when he got to San Francisco, or he was maybe Seattle.
Yeah, but he'd been new. He'd have been new for because it ain't like the world. Well, America was really looking at Hong Kong like that back then.
So
So
my
he'd have been
understanding is he
doing
came
unique.
here fairly young. He might have been a cab driver. Um, yeah, I think he was a cab. No, maybe not a cab driver, but he came over here. He went to school. He got a degree in philosophy. He opened up a martial arts dojo, and he was teaching the white people to pay the bills because he wasn't getting any Asian students. So he was teaching white people, and that's where they had the whole issue with. And apparently, he was handling some of the other martial artists out there. But as far as I know, his claim to fame really came in America.
Mm. All right, well, all right, guys. We're nearing that time. And we're gonna do our closing words. So we'll let you go first, Roger.
Ah, man, it's simple. His name is Bruce. His last name is Lee. He was the man. He was the myth, and he's definitely a legend. And if you pay attention, without Bruce Lee, we the world don't even look the same. It don't even look the same. He basically put martial arts on the map that it just really wasn't there before he came. That because that's all I heard about when, I mean, I didn't live before his time, but he made martial arts seem important, especially here in America. He brought that to us, so um, that needs to be respected. We lived in a different times where studios, you know, they had to have certain little contracts here and there, and because the dude was a fighter, I'm pretty sure the studio, from an investment standpoint, wanted to make sure that actor would stay in pretty good conditions. They do that on a regular basis nowadays. I'm pretty sure he's one of the pioneers of having contract stipulations, about your health and being ready to fight and all that type of stuff. That's I mean, it's a theory, but I think it's a very legitimate one that we probably can take seriously. And I'll
Mm.
leave it at that.
All right. Well, this has certainly
And
been
Donnie's a
interesting.
hater. Yeah, let me throw that in there too. Donnie's a hater. but,
Listen, bro,
but
you
go
keep, you
ahead.
keep trying to throw this theory. Oh, he couldn't get in the fight. The man had his back broken from street fighting. He clearly was out in the streets fighting.
Allegedly.
The man had his back
Allegedly.
broken. But you can go ahead and finish your final thoughts, man. Let me know.
I'm done. That's it. Allegedly. I'm just leaving it at
All right,
that.
well, I'll go next,
Yeah,
Kev. You
it was
can
your
end
turn,
it out.
Donnie.
So basically, my thing is this: Bruce Lee revolutionized kung fu movies in America. That you can't take that away from him. I think he revolutionized supplements as well. His training regiments, his books influenced the masses, right? But they give him too much credit where they say he's the father of mixed martial arts. When Vale Tudo was off in Brazil cracking and had been cracking for years. When they brought MMA over and they started figuring all this stuff out, them dudes had been doing that. And all that cage fighting. Prior to that, you had pancration, which was combining ground grappling skills and different forms of martial arts in order to do that. So I just don't see where they credit this man with being the father of mixed martial arts. I think it's really disingenuous. But in terms of everything else, I think he was a great man who made a very good show of kung fu and reinvigorated the world to it. As far as his fighting ability, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's suspect in real life, but the movies was awesome. I'm Donnie. I'm right, and I'm out.
All right.
Oh wow.
All right. Well, I will say this is like, if anything, you cannot deny the cultural impact that Bruce Lee has made in a short amount of time in his short life. In fact, I think that it was a shame, as all young people on the road, that he died when he did. And that is something that had he, you'll never get to see what would have happened if he had lived. How much more impact he could have made since he made that kind of impact in that short amount of time. Unfortunately, his son Brandon, well, he we knew how Brandon died, and he was unfortunately taken real young as well. But for what he did over here, as far as like the kung fu representation, he that's what makes him a legend. Now, would he have had as much luck in 2020 as he did back in the day? Well, we'll never know, now will we? But yeah, you have to take certain things into account when it comes to the messages that we were fed versus the messages that are really out there. If there had been internet back then, would Bruce Lee have been as big a legend, or would some other kid had come up because he had a video that went viral? But anyway, besides all that, there, what do I think at the end of the day? Was Bruce Lee a entertainer, or was he a fighter? I think he was both. I really do. But like my old man told me when I was a kid, no matter how good someone is, there's always out there. There's someone out there that's better. And could that have been true for Bruce Lee? Now, it was a very small world back then. Well, like I said, perhaps we may never know. But as far as this discussion goes, I feel like it was a very factual. It was factual versus fan discussion. Now, whatever you think of Bruce Lee legacy, whether you love him or whether you hate him, there is this thing called reality, and the reality is he looked very, very good on screen. He did. That's the reality of it. As far as him being a fighter, there's no real record of it. There's no real record of him except for being some sort of street scuffles and some and what we explained in this broadcast. It wasn't like he was going around. It's like say somebody like Chuck Norris, but I'll close with this. However you decide to keep Bruce Lee, yeah, keep it like that. I mean, because it pretty much at this point, it really probably at the end of the day, people are still going to think of Bruce Lee as this massive, unbeatable legend, and that's probably going to be about it. But I do respect it, but I have this constant need for the truth as well. So that's it. That this is the Black Dimension. This has been a very interesting discussion about Bruce Lee, the man, the myth, the legend. And we will be back to you guys real soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button and get those likes up, we 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 love you for it. So, all right, this is the Black Dimension, and we are out.